trust the technology is working, that technology is saved, even if you're syncing every 5 minutes and for every 5 houses, it's taking a little while, it is getting logged. Do it sooner rather than later. The worst thing for me is when you hear someone that's gone out all day and they haven't synced until that afternoon, and that's taking too long. So do it periodically, do it more frequently than you think, and just be patient with the system. If you seem to have anything more serious happening, alert a staffer immediately so that we can get it taken care of. Often, occasionally that issue is being experienced elsewhere in the country, and even if it's not, it's good for us to alert the company that manages that technology so that they can work through those things.
Stephen, Mike McCloskey. I wish more county chairs were here to hear this. One of the things that was discussed at the RNC meeting that was here in Austin a few weeks ago is there are a lot of folks that want to use other forms of lists and so forth. And the important thing about using the apps is that we're improving our data all the time. And so that's really important that we're all on the same page with using the Advantage app, because we have an opportunity to make that better. And I think we all are aware of the fact that a lot of information we have is not good. Phone numbers, addresses, names, all that is not good. And if we use the app, we're improving the information not only for this campaign, but for future campaigns. So it's really important to spread that message about that we're all on the same page using the same data.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yes.
The data is not perfect, but it is absolutely the best data that is available. It is 100% the best data that is available. How can I say that so confidently? Because I know all of our Republican activists across the country are using this and are improving the data with each click, with each sync, and with each survey answer. So please take that message to your volunteers. When they're out there and it's real hot and they're just doing 5 houses, that information is helping us in November, it's helping us in 2020, and it's helping us for all sorts of models, for all sorts of voter scores, all sorts of information that is then built off of this data. Doesn't mean it's perfect, doesn't mean you're not going to get someone who maybe is registered to vote at their parents' house and is now living elsewhere, but with each click we are improving that data. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for your time today. We are so grateful for your partnership, your hard work, and we look forward to working with you the next 90-some days till the November election. This is our go time. This is our Olympics. This is what we train for, and we're really excited to be here in Texas, electing such an incredible slate of candidates from local all the way up to the top of the ticket. Again, my name is Stephen Wong.
With our partners over there, and chief among them is Deputy Campaign Manager Chrissy Wilkinson, who's going to come and give us a little bit of an update about what's going on in Team App. Welcome, Chrissy.
Real title is the Abbott's intern. Which I do very well as an intern. So I know most of you. One, I just want to say how proud I am of Stephen and this kind of swap that happened. I was with the RNC for 3 cycles. First time as a candidate. It's been a great ride. So just to give you a little update on what we're doing, I have a really cool football-style presentation that I sort of like backwards. Oh, that's magical. So I don't think it's going to play, but looking into it, I've been with Team Abbott for 7 weeks now. We came in, we overhauled the field program, we overhauled how we talk to people, what we look as regional goals, what we look as goals for longevity, and I'm happy to say the last 4 weeks we've had 100 to 105% production of our field team. We currently have 111 team members across the state. I would like to double that between now and the election day. We are knocking with every single representative survey who would like to come on board. We're happy to assist in overlaying universes, in creating be good partners with our RPT counterparts and helping you get onto the Advantage survey. we have a hard ask and a hard number of 600,000 yes IDs for the governor between now and the end of election day. Does anyone know why? Why would we need 600,000 yes IDs between now and the end of the election day for the governor? No? So, up or down the ballot, there is a 20 to 25% discrepancy for a candidate who's willing, a person who's willing to vote for Governor Abbott, who is willing to vote for the other electeds. His approval rating is the highest in the state. 600,000 yes IDs is not a vanity number. It's the number that we have determined through multiple data points. I did not bring the smarter people with me. That was obviously an error. But that number pulls all of our electeds across the finish line. We saw a couple of weird and scary things through the primary. We should all pat ourselves on the back that there was an 18% increase in Republican turnout in the primary. And then we should stop and have a real big reality check that there was a 100% increase of Democrat voters to the ballot box for the primaries. You're seeing the largest increase in new movers and moderate voters, undecideds, being turned off by branding, whether it be Republican brand or Democratic brand. Harris County went 160,000 votes to Hillary Clinton last cycle. In retrospect, it went 978 votes for Obama. Now, you'll talk to multiple people and they'll tell you different reasons. My number one rule of any election is no declarative statements, except maybe if you tweet racist or bigoted things, and you're probably a jerk. It's easy to say, if people were turned off by Trump, it's easy to say, we have straight ticket voting, but it's too simple. When you look at demographically, Harris County, Fort Bend County, Bexar County, Dallas County, you see not only is there a decrease in interest of turning out to vote, but there's a branding problem all across the board. Peace Sessions District falls mainly within Dallas County. What we saw that was so unique is that you had a lower turnout in the Highland Park area where he does very well, and then a increased turnout in the 10 precincts above that sit in Collin County. So, I'm very competitive, for those of you who don't know me, and for those of you who do, you hear this analogy all the time. I love football. My job is not complicated. It is just being a football coach and hopefully doing it well. So, to win with 600,000 yes IDs is, for me, the bar. That gives us enough votes to ensure that we can do the best we can as Texans for Governor Abbott to make sure all of our neighbors on their up and down the Republican ticket make it across the finish line. It is a priority to the governor. He gets updates every day at 6:25 a.m. of where the field team sits as far as doors knocked. Other campaigns working with doors knocked. We've just started data sharing agreements between other candidates within the state who use things like I-360, so we can bump up our numbers into GOPDC, like Stephen wanted to talk about, and make sure that we're using all of our resources to the best of our abilities. And every morning at around 6:45, he sends an email. And in that email, he says, "Where is this person? Are they sick? Can we help this person knock better here? Should I call this person here?" Every morning, before 7 a.m., before anybody gets up, the governor is up, and he is looking at our door-to-door production. And it is a huge pat on the back to the field team. They have gone with the punches, and they have turned around how we communicate, how we do door-to-door. And it's a gigantic heart palpitation for me to know that I need to hire another 130 people between now and election day. And we only do that through individuals like you. Texas is not going to turn blue this cycle, but it's absolutely going to turn purple over the next 10 years. If we don't do and turn out the way we need to. We are 44th in the state, in the country for voter turnout, which means 43 other states kick our butts. We have some of the lowest voter registration in the country. And Democrats are spending millions of dollars in targeted down-ballot districts as well as hot points in order to turn out the vote. And they're not hosting a rally and then having them leave. They're coming in and doing knock 10 events. They're in areas that typically you would never ever touch if you were a Democrat, because you know it's going to go 87% for Republicans. Just like in football, the best way I can explain how I look at the state of Texas, and I'm from Louisiana, and a lot of you already know that, but I had to break the state up into about 4 states at the beginning to be able to wrap my brain around what this country was like, Texas being a country. And the more that I do this job, I have to break it up into, I think we're like 9 or 10 states at the moment. So I would encourage you to look at your elections as circles and horseshoes. The goal is to lose by less in areas that are deep blue pockets and pick up in areas that either horseshoe or circle around it in red spots. We can make a lot of progress throughout the state. And there's a lot of things that we can do to increase voter turnout, to send a message that we're absolutely not a state on the table and up for grabs. But the only place that starts is right here. So, a couple of highlights, and then I'll stop TED talking you. We have started a new turf coordinator program. I will send around the one pager that we had someone besides myself write, since I'm dyslexic. It's basically a part-time program. If you are a high school student, wanting to get your foot in the door, looking to earn a little bit of extra money, it's a gateway to the industry of politics. We are looking for people that will do 60 hours a month or 30 hours a month. We've seen a huge increase in that. I will continue to hire turf coordinators until John Jackson tells me to stop. And so at this point, we're going gangbusters. We hired 39 turf coordinators last week, and I believe I hired 27 this week. We will be doing more incentive programs. If you're an auxiliary group and you were involved with the Advent Auxiliary Program, it's been extended through the election day. With our team members and field organizers, for every ID that you get over your allotted requirement, we will pay you in a bank $2.50. That goes to field organizers and turf coordinators. Now, we won't pay you out unless you stay with us throughout the entirety of the election, but there's a huge incentive number. If you have ideas of how we can engage individuals who don't show up in this room, please email me. If you think that it would be cool to host an event at the Fort Worth Stockyards, I do too. Our regional directors, who a lot of you already know, are no longer allowed to recruit at events like this. Not because you aren't the leaders in your areas, but because you're already going to show up. If I asked you if it was a priority to end sex trafficking, everyone in this room, based on polling, would nod your head yes. If I said, do you really, really hate property tax, you might disagree on the minutia of how we do it, but all of you would say yes. So in the most frank terms, I'm not worried about you voting, but I'm absolutely worried about our brand. So each regional director has a petition issue goal of 100 petition signatures a week. They can do it wherever they want, however they want. They have to be entered into our CRM called Crowd Scout, which is a really creepy tool that I can use to Big Brother how every conversation happens. We have just upgraded the system, and so I can watch and say, so let's say we call Kathleen Wall, and we met her at a turtle racing festival, which is a thing in Fort Worth that I did not know, which sounds very cool with me. So, Hannah Devine went to the turtle racing festival, and she got 50 petition signatures. And the way that she did it, can I mic this thing? Can I flip it? The way that she did it is, hey, hi, my name's Christy. I'm a volunteer at Texas Growing Abbott. I'm a volunteer. We're really passionate about ending sex trafficking. And we're really looking to send a message to our elected officials that this is a priority, and it's a priority all across the country, and especially in Texas. We want to be the leaders in that. Can I get your first name? Do you also hate sex trafficking? I'd really like you to take a picture of the person who tells you no, because then I would like to find them. First name, last name, email address, phone number, zip code, county, state. Collect names in that capacity. It's been loaded into Crowd Scout. And the question that's asked is, hi, my name's Christy. I met you last Thursday at the Fort Worth Turtle Racing Competition. I hope your turtle won, and I hope you had a blast. On a more serious topic, I understand that ending sex trafficking is a priority to you, and it's a priority to me. Could you sit down and have a cup of coffee with Kelly and talk about that? You're attaching the issue to the candidate, not the candidate to the issue. And you're coming in and director, the majority of our volunteers who turned out to vote and are incredibly active were the ones who had never been engaged before. They're fired up about that issue. And what's cool now is I can load it into Crowd Scout. We paid for the phone banking system. I mean, cool for me, probably horrible for the regional voters. And I don't like grass, but I'd love to get involved. And I think it'd be really, really great at doing some of these recruitment calls. But sometimes they don't see our field team members a lot. From county chairmen who mean really well, just want things to go well. I get a lot of feedback, you know, hey, I haven't seen this field rep in a while. Good, hope you have it. That means they're out in the field, and they're talking to people. I went block walking up in Tarrant County Monday because I auctioned off the team that got the highest percentage of gold, and the team that recruited the most unique volunteers to cut my walk. There's a lot of those involved. Apparently some people have some anger issues. But what was really unique, knocked on the door. Hi, yes ma'am, my name is Christy Wilkinson. I'm a volunteer for Texas for Greg Abbott. I just got a few quick surveys questions for you. If the election were held today, do you think that you'd vote to re-elect Governor Abbott? Yes ma'am, absolutely. Do you think that you would, great, do you think you'd vote to re-elect Senator Cruz? No ma'am. Okay. State Rep Connie Burton. That's your local state senator. Would you vote to re-elect Senator Burton? I don't know who that is. Yes ma'am, absolutely. Guys, there's an issue. And we have to change the tone. The Ted Cruz team wins by 2 to 5 points. That sends a giant message that the state is up for grabs. We then become the single most expensive state in any race we do for the history of ever. You're looking at $500 million spent just in Texas on a presidential. It would require us to reroute the map. You hear it all the time. But if Texas loses, so does the presidency, right? But it's not an unfathomable thing. We need people going out in new, unique ways. We need to make sure that we look good as a political unit. And that means for the next 86 days, Will Hurd districts, they are going to hire 10 members. We will hire as many as John Jackson left me, and Stephen Wong has a lot to hire. But we will knock on every door we can. So if you've got college students, or you yourself think, hey, Christy, you know what I'd love to do this weekend? I would like for you to rent a bus and drive me into Alpine, Texas, and we're going to go knock all 400 people that live there. Challenge accepted. I was in Leona, Texas this last week with the governor. There are 177 people that live there. And every time I call, they're saying, hi, I'm volunteer for Texas Crowd. We'd love to sit down with you if you don't mind. We're just going to get out the vote event. The governor would love to see you. Ma'am, I'm really sorry. We're going to vote for him, but we've got Cal. Are you sure? Yes, ma'am. Cal are still there. Okay. 130 people showed up. In Texas, if you knock on someone's door every time you do it, that person is 8% more likely to turn out to vote. Nationwide, it's 6%. Texans are loyal. Their word means something. We've got to reach more of them. The more we can encourage people who have never been involved before, the more we can stand. Email, if you personally would like to get involved, is Wilkinson, WILKINSON, @gregabbott.com. Yes, sir.
Could you name some of those states that have the big turnout, the greater turnout, to give us an idea?
Florida, Ohio, Louisiana, Arkansas, Wisconsin, Alabama, Nebraska, California, right. I would encourage you to look at Harris County as Florida and look at Dallas County, Collin County, and Tarrant as North Carolina. And what I say by that is Harris County, the way Obama won Florida is they out-registered their populace. first time, right? 374,000 new registered voters percent. But the difference is, if you register a Republican for the first time, they're 80% more likely to go to the polls. If you register a Democrat, they're 47% more likely to go to the polls. So, I'm not telling you, voter registration is hard. It's important. But Harris County will be determined based on the issues that we see targeted and important to them, which is property tax reform, border security. Those are the issues that turn them out to the polls. So the governor has done, I did not know this until I got on, he's done more polling in the state than any other, really than any other national I've ever seen. And last cycle, I was the desk coordinator for the RNC, so I was definitely not in all the big time meetings, but I did have to compile the information for them. And the reason we go up on air about certain issues is not because other ones don't poll well, it's because these are the ones that move them to the ballot box. So all across the state, the issues that move people to the ballot box are ending sex trafficking, ending crime, border security, not saying build a wall, but border security, property tax reform, teacher retirement. Those are the top 5. And to tell you how curious of a leader he was like, I want to know, if we legalize marijuana, what's the polling on it? He doesn't want to legalize marijuana, he just wants to poll. 67% of Texans agree that they would like to do that. But none of them would go to the polls for it. So it's not a start, right? I was looking at the polling documents the other day, and it's like this thick, and that's round 1. Every time you use Advantage or do you have a data center, it goes into what's called Monte Carlo. I didn't know what that was until a few weeks ago. It is not gambling. But 10,000 data points are run every night, and then we're able to see the next morning where we need to turn on a dime. That only works if we use Advantage or have a partnership, use GeoPDC, and actually get quality data across the state. Other questions? Yes, sir.
You were talking about doing some podcasting. What you talking about?
I have not. I'm sure our comms team would do it. Should have them on board. Yeah, that's a good idea.
What do you say? Because he wants to hear it.
Over and over again. You can hear the team being like, no, we do that. Anytime you feel like you need I'm good at the scare tactic. So anytime you would like me to call and then I can bring in Ryan Bonfig and number them a little bit more. Yeah, we'll see a lot. We're about to do, it's kind of a secret. We're about to do, similarly to the Iceberg Challenge, we'll have certain people challenging how many IDs they'll get across the state. So we're very excited about that. I wish we could have filmed me walking the other day when I fell down and then like 100 Abbott literature went everywhere. And I was in a puddle. I was like, it's great, it's fine, it's 104 in Tarrant County, I don't care. At least I'm cooling down. Yes, ma'am.
How beneficial do you think Abbott University has been, and are y'all going to continue on with that program in the next several months? Have you ever thought of a name change? Kind of expect that?
On top of all those things, I would say they're very beneficial. We're looking to do joint branding with them. Because again, the name ID for the governor versus the name ID for any other elected official is either that elected official does not have the same amount of name ID, or they are not polling as high. Does that make sense? Like, right? So if Senator Cruz comes in and does joint one with us, we will co-brand it, but attaching to the governor is more beneficial for Senator Cruz. We've changed. I've reformatted a lot of what we're doing. We're relationships driven and built by metrics and numbers. So we definitely have overhauled a lot of that. I think we'll probably run them up and through the end of September. But if we get a huge outpouring of interest, we'll still do abbreviated ones through October. Additionally, to come on board and be a team member, the first thing I changed when I got there was it's not a 6-week period without getting paid. You can pretty much figure out within the first 3 days if this is somebody who's going to want to come on board and be interested. So we'll get you in, and we have a track of hiring, just like they do at Nordstrom's and Walmart and Starbucks. That's how we. So we'll bring them on board within the first 2 or 3 days. Yeah. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
If you were trying to take a precinct primarily Democratic and you wanted to find a way to have some kind of community event that's focused on the Republican side, y'all have seen numbers and disappointed on that?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And I would say too, especially if it's a more democratic precinct that you're in, I tell the team all the time to make your. I love this because on the end of the election day, right, I can tell if I did a good job or didn't. But it's hard because you feel like you're on a hamster wheel and you can't check. Make your goal achievable. So for me, every morning, it's like, get up, read a devotional, get out of bed, make my bed, do my hair. Most painful calls I have to make, first 3 are done in the car all the way there. And I'm like OCD checking them off. So don't set the goal for yourself to be, turn this very, very big precinct blue. Move the needle. And so find the issue that pulls well, we can help you with that, send us an email. We'll be able to tell what issue pulls best in yours, and then we can attach the conservative issue to your candidate, and we can do it that way, would be my recommendation. Yes, ma'am. Anything else? Send to the chairman.
Thank you very much. Guys, I appreciate you very much for being here for the day. How many of you were here for this morning for the training Brandon did?
Let's go back and forth. So.
Kudos. How about a round of applause for Brandon for that training this morning? You know, after announcing that we were doing this training, you know, we've since announced we're actually also going to be doing regional training throughout the state. And the point was not that to have this joint training, it was not so much to say, Austin's the place you need to come for the training. We're going to do the regional ones as well. But that it's a chance for those of you who are the critical, you know, rubber meets the road in our counties across the state to have a chance to be here with the new SREC members, with the existing SREC members. So we scheduled today so that we had county and precinct chair training this morning. We invited precinct chairs on purpose so they could see all of what a county chair really has to do. Because I've seen a lot of times conflict and concern comes with a lack of understanding. So we invited on purpose precinct chairs to watch. Of course, we filmed the whole thing too, and we'll be posting it up as well. Then we have this lunch together, which for those of you who are new SREC members, do not get used to this. You were spoiled because the county chairs were here. And because our team did an amazing job getting great sponsorships, and some of the great people who were here this morning were also very generous with donations to either join the Grassroots Club annually or monthly, or to just do a straight up donation to show their appreciation for all of this. So those of you who are SREC members, in our quarterly SREC meetings, you'll get a chance to sign up and pay for your lunch to help you out with lunch. But today you were fortunate to have that great sponsored lunch because county chairs were there. Now, and you've heard from our sponsors, you've also heard from our political department and from the Abbott campaign. Now what we're going to do is the orientation for new SREC members. And for those of you who don't know, 44% of the SREC is brand new this term. Yeah, so congratulations or condolences, whichever the case may be. All the more reason we want to be sure to do some training, and absolutely critical in all of our training. And for those of you who are county chairs, precinct chairs, we're going to do this hour of orientation. By all means, stick around for that. At 2 p.m., we will start a special meeting. And if you can, if you don't need to leave early enough because you have a 7-hour drive home and you need to get there before dark, please stick around for some of that meeting, because the bottom line is that your EC meetings and our EC meetings should function very similar. You should have a similar tone. The atmosphere should be similar. The process should be similar. Now, if you only have 15 precinct chairs, it's not going to be this big. But when I had 120 precinct chairs, as opposed to 64 members of EC, the process was similar. So by all means, we're going to do some parliamentary training, and then we're also going to do some financial training, some other stuff. during this hour, stick around and see how we operate and why we operate that way. And then at 2, stick around to see how we run a meeting. We're not perfect, but we try to set a really good example and lead by example of what DC meeting ought to look for. And you guys are more than welcome to join us, but we are going to switch to SREC members up here where the name tags are, and everybody else from the back of the room. So let's regroup, and in 2 minutes we'll have Chris come up and do the parliamentary training. And we'll also make sure people in the home know that we're about to start.
So for my training, just be on the projector.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Cool.
Hello, SREC members. If you're wanting to order shirts, please come see me. I have forms if you need them. We are taking collecting them today. Thank you.
Can you direct me to Kyle Watley?
Yes. I'm not sure where he went. Let me,
Okay. Well, is that Mr. Barcroft over there, Jack? In the orange shirt, is that Jack Barcroft? He's not. Okay. Is he here today?
I have not seen him yet. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So, can you describe Kyle Watley to
Sure.
me?
He's got a light kind of tannish jacket on, like this, but it's a pattern jacket. Let me see if I can take you out and see if we can find it.
Okay.
So if you guys would grab your seats, we're going to try and get, not too far out of time. And if those of you who are chairs or chair meetings, if you hear nothing else I say today, the best counsel I can give everyone is make sure you have an amazing parliamentarian. And I'm fortunate to have one, and you are fortunate to hear from him today. Chris Howe, parliamentarian for the Republican Party of Texas.
When Brendan asked me to conduct parliamentary training for county chairs and SRC members, I asked him how many days of presentation time I had. He said I could talk for as long as I wanted, but feared I would only listen for about 20 minutes. I couldn't be too generous. For those that don't know me, I'm Chris Howe. For the last year, I've been honored to serve as parliamentarian for the Republican Party of Texas. It's been a very rewarding experience working with Chairman Hickey and the SRC. For about 5 years before that, I served as parliamentarian for the Tarrant County Republican Party. My email and phone number are listed. If you have questions about anything here today, feel free to reach out. Being warned, I give the following caveat to every single person who asks me partisan parliamentary questions. I am a parliamentarian, not a parliamentary authority. The parliamentary authority is Robert's Rules of Order to revise the rules of the Republican Party of Texas, and if applicable, your local party rules. If I answer a question you have on the rules of party or Robert's Rules, there should be no circumstance where you tell someone the RPT parliamentarian said, or Chris Howe said. There's two reasons for that. One, I have only the facts that you gave me, not the facts from somebody else. And number two, people rarely repeat what I said accurately. When you make a point in a meeting or in preparation for a meeting, be prepared to cite the real Robert's Rules or the RPT rules. I will most likely give you the reference that I think is most on point and appropriate. If someone pulls the Chris Howe said line on you, please follow on it. They should have a citation to back up the position. There is way too much material to cover in various rules. I think the best use of our time is to dive into these basic principles. I think choosing the book as a reference tool and not something to memorize. The principles go over briefly is what is deliberative assembly, what convening rights are we having to balance, what helps maintain an orderly transaction of business, decorum and how we treat each other, and principles of interpretation. This will help you write better rules or allow someone to understand the meaning of the rules months after they were adopted. First, a deliberative assembly is a group of people meeting to discuss and make decisions on behalf of the entire membership. This is the assembly part of deliberative assembly. They meet in a single room or area under equivalent conditions of simultaneous oral communication. All members can hear. All other members speak. This is the deliberative part. Each member is free to act according to their own judgment. When you're allowed to disagree, you're encouraged to discuss your disagreement. Each member has an equal vote. It's pretty self-explanatory. A member can remain part of the group even after disagreeing with a decision. Iron sharpens iron. This isn't join or die. This can often help in creative problem-solving process. The members at the meeting act for the entire group, even if there are members absent. Once the deliberative decision has been made, you move on and implement that decision. Rules of parliamentary law are constructed upon a careful balance of the rights of the majority to decide, of the minority to be heard, of absentees to be noticed, and to ensure that there's enough membership to be representative of the body. Of individual members, they have the right to attend meetings, to make motions, to speak in debate, and to vote. And remember that silence equals consent. If you don't assert your rights, you might as well not have had them. Please notice that there is no careful balance of the right of the chair, except as their status as an individual member. Here are some important points to remember if you want to keep the transaction business moving along. First, one question at a time. This avoids confusion. One speaker at a time. This keeps people from talking over each other and keeps the tensions low. State the question clearly. When necessary, explain the consequences of voting yes or no on a motion. Members have a right to know what they're voting on. Before voting, state the question again. Call for both the ayes and the noes. Members have a right to express their dissent. So be sure, even if it seems a Therefore, on conclusion, the motion is going to pass. Please call for the noes. And then declare the result of the vote. Use the gavel, a light tapping of the gavel to help your secretary to know that something actually just happened, that they need to report. It helps prevent confusion on where you are. And maintain decorum. Decorum is expected and proper behavior of the members and of the chair. For the chair to preserve objectivity, to approach their duties impersonally, to maintain order, to insist officers be referred to by their titles, and to speak in the third person. It seems a little weird whenever you're amongst friends and you think I need to refer to this person as the treasurer instead of Bob. Identifying people by their title instead of their name helps to keep things from becoming personal. When someone says, Bob screwed up, Bob gets defensive and says, no, I didn't. You say the treasurer screwed up, Bob has a little separation there. And he can talk more about his duties as opposed to being personal. The chair needs to address personal attacks promptly. Don't allow people to speak until they are recognized. Be seated or step back when you assign the floor, and relinquish the chair to debate. Relinquish the chair, if you are wanting to debate a motion. For a quorum in debate, or the actual members talking that you're trying to maintain a quorum of, insist they avoid personalities. We're here to discuss the merits of the idea, not the people. Unless you have a really small EC stand to speak, this helps other people to verify that people are being assigned the floor appropriately. Ensure that people don't interrupt one another, except for interrupting motions. This is common courtesy. Confine remarks to the immediate question. Refrain from discussing motives. And all remarks directed through the chair. This allows the chair to act as a buffer, and again, keep things from becoming personal. Avoid using the names of other members, instead refer to them as the previous member who spoke. Refrain from speaking against one's own motion. Refrain from speaking adversely on a prior action that's already been taken by your body that's not currently pending. And refrain from disturbing the assembly by talking to your neighbor or walking between the speaker and the chair. Most of the ambiguities that we find in our rules come about because many rules and bylaws are written without consideration of principles of interpretation. Knowing these will allow you to write the rules to accurately capture the intention of your EC whenever you adopt the rule, and so people can understand what you meant months later when they read the rule and try to apply it to a specific situation. I'm only going to go over one of them at this time. It's the most important one when trying to interpret your bylaws, is that each society decides for itself the meaning of its rules and bylaws. There must be an ambiguity that exists before there's any reason for interpretation. But if a bylaw is ambiguous, it must be interpreted, if possible, in harmony with the other bylaws. This interpretation should be in accordance with the intention of society at the time the bylaw was adopted, as far as can be determined. But if there is an ambiguity, all that is required to resolve it is indicated below. I listed the remaining 7 principles so that you know they exist, not for the purpose of going into detail. Some tips that I'd like to go over for you that help your meetings advance. First is to plan your meeting. If you need to write a script, go ahead. Just don't script the results of the votes. Know as much as is reasonably possible. What it is that we brought up, go ahead and call your officers and committee chairmen to submit the reports early so you know what motions would be necessary to adopt recommendations. Invite, don't require, but invite your membership to advise the chair of motions they know they intend to introduce. This isn't asking permission or debating the merits, but the simple practice can help ensure that the member is making the motion they intend to make, and to encourage them to perfect the motion with other interested people before coming to the meeting. This will save time when you actually go to debate the issue. Next, go ahead and start your meeting on time. You should accommodate the members who arrive on time and insist that the latecomers adjust to everyone else instead of everyone else adjusting to the latecomers. This shows you mean business, and after all, that's what you're there for. As often as possible, use unanimous consent. Unanimous consent is a remarkable tool for handling any motion in which it's clear and obvious that the Assembly's will is to pass the motion. Members rarely object to unanimous consent when they know the opposition is so minimal that it won't affect the outcome. If you ask for unanimous consent and a member objects, you simply take the vote. Otherwise, it's a great time saver, and members really do appreciate presiding officers who know how to save their time. Presiding with impartiality, when you're presiding in the meeting, you must put your personal agenda aside and be present to help the members make their decisions. As presiding officers, you really only control the floor, and you're expected to follow clear and definite rules about how the floor is assigned. Everything else is really in the members' hands. It's always in your best interest to be known as a leader who helps the minority to make its case, and to do so no matter how you personally feel about their position. Don't enter into the debate. Don't correct misstatements in the members' debate. Allow other members to make those corrections, and don't dabble through motions. Don't refuse to recognize someone just because you don't want them to be heard. Don't share your lectern, if at all possible. If you have control over your meeting space, try to do it so that committee chairman, other officers, elected officials will mimic the leader. We're not apes. Beating your chest is not command respect. Keep things informal when you can. The original author of Robert's Rules said, know all about parliamentary law, but do not try to show off your knowledge. Never be technical, nor be any more strict than is absolutely necessary for the good of the meeting. Use your judgment. The Assembly may be of such a nature through its ignorance of parliamentary usages and peaceable disposition that a strict enforcement of rules instead of assisting would greatly hinder business. But in large assemblies, when there is much work to be done, and especially when there is liability to trouble, the only safe course is to require strict observance of the rules. Rules are there to assist the completion of business. They are not there to get in the way of it. Take notes and slow down. It's very important for the presiding officer to know what specific item of business is in front of the body. Don't be afraid to use a pen and paper to identify where you're at. Don't expect to keep it all in your head. If you rush things, it's extremely likely that some members will not follow and will constantly interrupt you to find out what you're voting on. You do not save time by rushing through votes. You do not save time by speaking quickly. So slow down before asking for the yeas and nos. State the motion clearly and correctly. If the members object to how you say the question, do not try to speak to the masses. Call on the secretary to repeat the motion or a single member to help get the motion correct. It is much faster to speak to one person at a time than it is to try to crowdsource what the language of the motion was. Relationship and respect. It doesn't matter how many rules you memorize. If you're not building and maintaining relationships with your members to mutual respect, you will not be able to consistently lead effective meetings or your executive committee. And finally, love your enemies. This is probably the most important tip. Without even touching on the importance that the chapter of the Gospel of Matthew has in your life in general, there is real merit in applying it to partisan politics. Participating in the executive committee is an exercise in self-government. You didn't get involved in politics to put Bob from Precinct 17 in his place. If you find enemies in your executive committee and you return hate for hate, it will consume your time, your resources, and your relationship. Hate is a terrible distraction in our organizations. Instead, love your enemies, find the good in them, put your time and resources into loving your executive committee members, and you will be much more successful in achieving your goals. That's the basics. parliamentary training. We went over the principles of over assembly, the acknowledgement of the rules of their balance between rights. We discussed the basics of orderly transaction business, the importance of exercising reform, a brief reference to the principles of interpretation, and finally a few tips that should help you have better memory. Are there any questions? Thank you.
For a minute, it froze up on there. It was on like a white screen. I was like, oh shit. Took me a minute to get it back. But for some reason, I don't know what it was, but I got it figured out, or well, solved it. It was staying like off center, so I had to.
Are y'all managing the slides? Because when I put it up to finance,
They
switched out.
need a plug in here.
I'm sorry. You guys switched out the random. Why are you sitting there? I don't know. Okay. That's a good question. Where are your slides? Okay.
Yeah, if he has them online or a computer with them on it, you can just put them in here and get it working. If we'd have to.
I'm getting there. Okay. The orientation is folder called that?
So next on the agenda during the orientation is give an overview of finances, and specifically financial flows and workflows, so you can understand why we manage some of the money the way we do and how we manage it. And for that, we're going to have our treasurer and our accounting director up. If you guys will join me in welcoming our treasurer, Larry Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The advance.
I'm Larry Hicks, and I'm treasurer of the Republican Party of Texas. I was appointed in June of 2017 and reappointed at the state convention a few weeks ago. Previous to that, I served 4 terms as treasurer of the Harris County Republican Party. I've also, for the last 7 primaries, provided accounting services to our Harris County primary. I'm a CPA, and in my practice, I provide campaign finance reporting services to about 30 candidates and committees. The process of raising money and spending it to influence elections is referred to as campaign finance. Campaign finance activities are regulated by the Federal Election Commission, or the FEC, for federal elections, and by the Texas Ethics Commission, or TEC, for state and local elections. To comply with the various regulations, we're required to keep records and maintain separate accounts for different types of transactions. These regulations require, among other things, that transactions such as contributions and expenditures be disclosed via periodic reports to the FEC or TEC as appropriate. These reports, once filed, are public information and are displayed on the respective websites. Generally speaking, reports are due at mid-year and year-end, with pre-election reports due in the last weeks and even days before the elections. RPT is elected to file the FEC reports on a monthly basis, so that's an ongoing monthly process. The mid-year TEC reports were filed in mid-July. Pre-election reports will come due as we approach the November election. The terms federal money and state money simply refer to the funds raised subject to the corresponding regulations. Historically, the largest source of federal dollars is from our direct mail and telemarketing efforts. Lately, the Grassroots Club has surpassed those
and online and email donations, and even some major donor contributions qualify as federal money. Federal dollars are the most versatile that the RPT has. They can be spent on just about any expense that the RPT incurs and must be used to pay for election-related fundraising activity and administrative expenses. Most state money comes from major donors. Individual donors to the state party are limited to $10,000 per year for federal contributions. Anything in excess of $10,000 per year from an individual must go into the state account. There's no limit to the amount of contributions that any individual can contribute to the state account. State money can be used to pay for a portion of allocated expenses. Allocated in this context refers to funding payments from a mix of state and federal money. Currently, allocated expenses can be paid for with 21% federal money and 79% non-federal or state money. So, for example, a $100 expenditure for administrative expenses would have to be paid for with at least $21 of federal money, and the remaining $79 could be paid with state money. The 21% is a minimum, so $79
That's the resolution.
could be paid.
Gotcha.
So the remaining, the 21% is a minimum. So this hypothetical $100 expense could be paid for with 100% federal money. The percentage changes each election cycle, depending on whether it's a presidential year and whether there's a U.S. senator on the ballot. Examples of allocable expenses are administrative costs such as rent, utilities, and some salaries. Corporate money, as the name implies, is money that is donated to the party by corporations. Many corporations have political action committees or PACs, and a contribution from a PAC is not corporate money. In this context, we're talking about money coming directly from the corporate treasury. The state party is somewhat unique in that we can accept money from corporations. Candidates cannot. The use of corporate money is severely limited. Corporate money can be used to pay for the non-federal share of allocated expenses, but not for any electioneering. Maybe its most important use is that corporate money can be used to pay for our biennial convention.
Bless you.
When you look at a cash availability report, which you will have each regular SREC meeting, you can count up to 16 accounts listed and maybe ask, why? Why so many accounts? The answer, in part, as we learned in the previous slide, is to comply with the campaign finance regulations imposed by the TDC and FTC. A few others are there just to help us keep track of things and make sure that funds raised are used for the intended purpose. These accounts are separated into groups, and the first group make up the RPT operating accounts. These are sometimes referred to as unrestricted accounts. Money in other accounts is restricted for a particular purpose. However, these accounts, these unrestricted accounts, are available to fund the vast majority of regular political operations of the RPT. Are largely raised by a victory chair appointed by the state chair. Funds in these accounts are restricted to this purpose. Primary funds are funds that the RPT collects from filing fees that candidates must pay to have a place on the Republican primary ballot. The state party may use the funds only to pay the costs related to the primary election. Funds remaining in the account after the primary is over are returned to the Secretary of State. Unlike other restricted accounts, this account is restricted by law to the primary purpose. Finally, we have the Candidate Resource Committee, or CRC. It was created by the SREC to provide funds to down-ballot candidates running in more localized elections. Funds are raised and allocated by the Candidate Resource Committee of the SREC, and thus are not available for any other use.
All right. Thank you very much. Make sure that anybody has any questions about the 3 different types of money and how we can spend it. Yes, ma'am.
Mine is not related to that, but what it is related to is that you had any issues with some of the financial institutions kindly telling you that they don't want your accounts any longer because of your web. We had that in Travis County.
No, ma'am. They still like money, those guys. Okay, so up next is John Alvin, our accounting director, to introduce himself a little bit and to talk about some of the internal accounting processes that we have at the party. Oh, one moment, please. If you like flowcharts, folks, this is going to be the most exciting part of the meeting. Now, I've reached out to the hotel to see if we can get those lights set for you.
Hey, Kyle, is there a handout?
We're having some printer issues. As opposed to I was going to email this out to everybody. Sorry about that. Yeah. Probably user error, I'm sure. But.
Much better.
Good. Mark's fine. Mark's fine. Okay. Here we go, John Alvin.
My name is John Alvin. I've been on the party 5 years now. Also, that's the now I get a lot. Everyone. Okay, my name is John Alvin. I'm the party's accounting director. I've been with the party going on. This will be my 5th year. Pardon? There you go. This will work for me. My name is John Alvey. I'm the party's accounting director. This will be my 5th year with the party. All of them serving as the staff accountant until I got a battlefield promotion during this year's state convention. I'm here to serve the SREC and do my part to keep this organization successful in the years ahead. This is sensitive.
Yeah.
Okay, the first chart is the individual donation process flow. Everything starts off with someone sending in an envelope. When the envelope arrives, we go ahead and date stamp and just approve when we got it. Next would be determining which account it goes into. Next, we enter the deposit. I'd enter it into the compliance software, I'd print out a deposit detail report, and then I would enter it into our accounting software. So it's really a 2-step process. Next is mass mail process flow. That's either a direct mail or a telemarketing. Those envelopes arrive in a P.O. box. Those are a little different. I remove the obvious hate mail or things that weigh, a pound and a half. I prepare a box and ship it off to our caging company. That is later processed by the caging company, who then deposits it into our banks. They send me a report showing what they think they have. I compare that to the bank. I pull an Aristotle report and compare that to what he said. And then I download it and then enter that into the account. Next, the account payable flow. Decisions to make purchases are made by either Kyle or James. Actually, it's made by the individual who wants the stuff, who has to get it approved by Kyle James. Next, the purchase order is presented to me, and I give that back to Kyle to be approved. When we receive the invoice from the company we issue the PO for, I will then enter that as a receipt into the accounting software. Then I will issue a check. Our checks are required to be signed by at least 2 authorized signers. At this time, it's Kyle, James, our compliance lady, and Larry. Copies of these checks are then attached to invoices and the POs are all filed. Then I mail a check. Credit card purchases are made by the chairman of the ED, pretty much general. Account orders prepared in the accounting software that are approved by the ED with a receipt. I enter the PO into the accounting system. I receive the bill from the credit card company. I verify that all the charges are correct. We have a PO for everything, and I issue a check. Once again, I get 2 signatures. Copies of everything are attached and filed. We kill a lot of trees. Then the checks are mailed to the credit card. Thanks all.
So we're certainly available to answer any questions you might have. I think the one thing that I'd like you to take away from these presentations is number one, hopefully a rudimentary understanding of the campaign finance and compliance side of what we deal with, the money we need to raise to cover the different expenses that we're allowed to use certain money for, but also an understanding of the processes that we have internally at the party. We treat the operations of the party extremely professionally. Records are taken meticulously, processes are followed meticulously, and records are kept for 5 years. So records are kept on site, secured for 5 years, all of our financial records. And of course, as those of you who know who have been on the SREC, we have an annual audit that takes place, and the auditors require and examine all of the financial paper flow that we keep for all of our transactions. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions you have about either our processes or questions you have about compliance or accounting or fundraising or anything else like that. Yes, sir.
Question on the state and federal funds, which can be used in other places. Can state use at federal, but federal can use at state? How does that work? Yeah, I mean, you can only transfer among federal accounts. You can't take corporate money and put it into the federal account, with the exception of paying back for allocable expenses. So as Larry was explaining, that some of our expenses are what's called allocated. Every year we get instruction on what those allocated levels are. Right now it's 7921, and in some cases we will pay the bills with federal funds. Susan McLean, who does our compliance, will come in, examine our journal entries, and sign off on the transfer of the allocated funds from either state or corporate to go back into the federal account. So you're not really changing you're not really changing state money into federal money. You can't do that. You're simply reimbursing the account for funds that could have been and not to be paid with state or corporate. Yeah, exactly. Almost all activity around the election it must be paid for with federal, because it's considered federal election activity because federal candidates are almost always on the ballot. So just about any of our get out the vote efforts and any of our efforts around the election have to be paid for with federal funds. So and then we will be on a moratorium for collecting any corporate money starting in a month, right? Yeah, September 7th, we will be restricted to not be able to raise any corporate money at all. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Tell me.
What's the redundancy you have for archiving records and digital copies?
That's what redundancy do we have for our financial records?
Financial records, we don't really have it. I mean, we store everything in our offices, so we have it. But no digital copies, but you're asking.
Any other questions? I think somebody was about to ask one over here. No? Okay. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. And I mentioned, if you didn't hear me answering Rick Figueroa's question, I was having some issues printing this out. Again, probably user error. So I'm going to email this presentation out to everybody after the meeting. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Thank you to Kyle and everybody. Kyle, before you get too far away. So, today, before I get into my portion, today's a special day for this guy. So, we as the staff and members here at the SREC wanted to say happy birthday to Kyle, because today is his birthday. So here's your card. So, Kyle's really great about fundraising and making sure we don't spend too much money. But there was a card that I almost got him. It was black with white letters on it, and it said, 4 out of 5 people on their birthdays get money. Happy birthday, number 5. And
I prefer you all to join the grassroots club.
we have a cake over there. We're going to try to see if we can get some cutting utensils because, well, there are a few things, you know, I mean, Cassie did an incredible job as organization director, and she still has some really big shoes to fill. I'm doing my best on that, but, you know, there are a few things that I will probably never live up to when it comes to Cassie. One of those is singing happy birthday, or singing anything. So, I'm going to leave that to you guys.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kyle. Happy birthday to you.
I'm going to go paying attention to our text as well. It's really not fantastic. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Enjoy the cake. My daughters are going to be very jealous. They were asking me where the cake was going to be today for my birthday. So don't let anybody tell them we have cake. Thank you. What's that? I will. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to see if we can get some utensils and cut that. Anybody that wants to have some cake, please do so, because I definitely don't want to have to take that back with me, that's for sure. All right, that being said, let's see if we can't go over this overview right quick. As the organization director, part of my job is working with the county chairs, and part of my job is working with you guys as SREC to make sure to get the logistics, the function of these meetings, the setup, everything, make sure they happen. So with that, I'm just going to do a few slides right here. Let's start off with the meeting notice. You guys should receive a meeting notice prior to each SREC meeting. We're required to get that to y'all 12 days in advance at least. You should have received one both via mail and email this last time, because the rules do require that we send it to you one way or the other, depending on your preference. We did set up a Google form and said, hey, tell us your preference. If you fill that out, great. If you fill it out in the first 15 minutes, I may still need to ask you what your name was, because apparently I forgot to have 4 names for the first 15 minutes. So about 14 or 15 of y'all jumped right on it. So doing my best to see if we can track that down. We've got about 2/3 of the SREC that have responded. But if you'll let us know if you prefer mail or email notifications, and we'll make sure to send those accordingly. With that, the meeting notice should contain the agenda and a proxy form in case you need one. Fill the proxy form out, just fill it out, and you can email it or fax it back to us, whichever. Send it to the person that you're appointing as your proxy. They should be a Republican from your Senate district to serve as your proxy. Okay, so when you get to the meeting, the SREC meeting check-in, show up here at registration like we had outside. We'll have sheets for y'all to sign in on. So I would love to digitize it, but we'll have to see if the funds are there. Plus, we'll have to see if that would actually work for y'all, or if we still need to stick with the hard copies. Whatever we need to do is exactly what we're going to do. But pick up your packet. When you get registration, you should have an agenda in your packet. There should also be a review checklist, basically, or a table of contents, essentially. If you pre-purchased a lunch ticket, it'll be stapled to your envelope, your packet. If you did not, you can purchase one on site. As we talked about earlier, these meetings aren't cheap. The meals aren't cheap here. We do ask you guys to help us out with that because that's helped offset some of the cost. Towards the beginning of the meeting, I'll briefly overview the contents of the packet. Hopefully everything is in there and in order. And if that's the case, then great, I did a good job. And how can you do a really good job? If not, then shame on me. You know. So, and if you're missing anything, please let me know. We try to bring a few extra copies, and we'll be able to make copies here. And regular SREC meetings, they usually occur on a Friday and a Saturday, once a quarter. Fridays are for day full of committee meetings. Be ready to move from one committee to the next based upon your committee assignments and also on any interest that you have for testifying or observing in front of committees, working groups, etc. So it's a busy day. A lot of times we try to have some type of function in the evening, a reception, or something that an elected official or a group has sponsored. Sometimes it'll be here at the hotel, sometimes it'll be off-site. So we usually try to do something fun on Friday night and something sociable to give some time for y'all to kind of visit with each other and make those connections and network across the state. If you have any items that you want RPT staff to print for your committee meetings to have available for your committee on Friday, if you would please get those to us by Wednesday at noon preceding the committee meetings, that would be extremely beneficial so we can make sure that we've got them printed off and in the tabs that we bring to the meetings. If you have any items from your committee meetings, any reports or anything that you need printed off, we will be creating, we use Google Drive, we'll be creating a folder for each and every meeting in there. All of you should have access to that, or the necessary people should have access to that to upload files from each committee. And we'll have folders there, for folders that say on-screen only, so it's something that needs to be on the screen but doesn't need to be in the packets. And then a folder for print and on-screen, or print only, either way. So that if you will upload it to the correct folder when we do that, and in the emails that I send to you guys, I will let y'all know, step by step, and then give you the links on uploading those. If it doesn't work, you can always email it to me, and I can make sure that it gets uploaded. We're just trying to find the streamline the process and make it as efficient as possible.
The first item is a month.
Once a quarter. Did I put once? Okay, if I put once a month, then I was mistaken. Yep, I put once a month, I was mistaken. My apologies. It is once a quarter as our regular SREC meetings. So committee reports, if you're committee chair, secretary, or otherwise responsible for generating the report from your committee, if you could have that to us as soon as possible after your committee is done, most especially if you need us to print something off and put it in the packets, the sooner the better. Preferably, please, if you could, by 7 p.m., if at all possible. Obviously, we'll work with you as much as we can to get that done. But the less I have to stay up until 2 in the morning, the happier I will be. Submit, like I said, submit materials by uploading them to Google Drive, and we'll take care of them from there. Or if that's not working for you, then send me an email. I'll try to walk you through it, or we'll figure out what's going on, or I'll just go ahead and upload it myself. Whatever we need to do. Proxies. Again, if you're unable to attend, fill out the proxy form, send it back to us. Email it to me, bmore@texasgop.org, or fax it back to us. I get an electronic copy of that as well. You can also send it to your proxy that way to make sure and have all that ready. And consequently, it's usually about $5 cheaper to pre-order online than it is to pay here at the hotel. But you can pay here at the hotel. Alright, so introduction of staff. You guys, Matt Kyle, he overviewed everything with you here earlier. He's our executive director. Kyle makes sure that the office runs and functions well and smoothly, and is just really generally a great supervisor. Maybe he's already stepped out of the room, but and it's been a pleasure working with Kyle, and I've really enjoyed it. John Alvey in accounting. You already met him this afternoon as well. John has, I'll say John has a very cool car that I keep telling him when he takes a trip, and he needs to let me know, because I want to ride along too. So John is our accounting director,
So
any of that financial stuff. He knows that stuff, and that's
Close it and restart it.
He's the compliance officer, works with him on all of that financial reporting, at the administration.
So that's not updating, you just turn on and off the thing.
And Marissa,
Yeah, 'cause the other one
she's our finance director. She's actually from Michigan. I always have to stop myself and remember, because I always want to say she's from Wisconsin. When I think Michigan, I think Detroit, and she just doesn't seem like she's from Detroit. So she actually is from Michigan. Wonderful young lady. You'll get to meet her in September most likely. Same way with Joanna Kitchen. Joanna is not from Michigan. She's actually from the Philippines. She's half Filipino. Her dad was in the military, but she now has dual citizenship, if I remember correctly. She's our deputy organization director and office manager, so she makes sure and handles the chairman's schedule. She was our assistant primary administrator, so she's working with me through the primary. She's now moved into this other position, handling the chairman's schedule, the office management, making sure we've got all our supplies that we need, etc. Sam Pohl, right over here. Sam is our new communications coordinator. We're excited to have him on board. And look forward to working with you, Sam.
Looking forward to it.
You met Stephen Wong earlier. He's the RNC State Director and RPT Political Director. Stephen manages the field team and works on the get out to vote efforts, voter ID, etc. So it's been a pleasure working with Stephen as well. And those guys are getting extremely busy right about now, which is why with this week we're going to help them. Now finally, you got me. And actually that's pretty close to the layout of the office. When you come in the front door, that's almost exactly how you go around. Except Kyle's actually by me almost all the way around the back. So with that, let's keep moving on. Hotel reservations. I will try to send the hotel reservation information out to you guys several weeks in advance so y'all can book your rooms. We do have room blocks when we get here. Typically those rates range anywhere from about $85 to $119 a night. I believe in September, if memory serves me correctly, we're going to get the $119 rate. But in December, the November 30th, December 1st meeting, we will be at the $85 rate, if I remember correctly. Now right now we're booked, we've got those two meetings set through the end of the year. And we're doing RFPs to try and see if we stay here or if we're moving to a different location, and let you guys know about that. Candidate Resource Committee. So I know a little bit about the Candidate Resource Committee. These guys, they raise funds to support our down ballot candidates and determine where to place that financial support to give us the biggest bang for the buck on the efforts that we're putting out there. They do an incredible job. In fact, they were there at the office from, I don't know, what, 9 or 10 o'clock yesterday morning until probably 8, 9, 10 o'clock last night, working through all that. As a member of the SREC, I believe, from what I understand, you're expected to help raise funds as well. CRC, keep me that. We have a monthly leadership webinar. If you have any other questions, please give me a holler. And I'll be around for the rest of the day. Thanks.
It being 2:01, please take your seats. All right, all the SREC members are hopefully up in the voting SREC member seats in your appropriate spot. It being 2:02, I call to order the special meeting of the State Republican Executive Committee. Before we begin, I'd like to highlight today's meeting will be interpreted in American Sign Language by Sarah Brown and Elizabeth Vick. If I could have our chaplain, Corey Tabor, please lead us in the invocation, after which Sue Evanwell will lead us in the U.S. Pledge of Allegiance, and Dion Starnes will lead us in the Texas Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pray.
God, we come before you this afternoon, and we are thankful for this day that you have given us, a day that you have made, and we choose to rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you, Father, for the opportunity you give us to be involved in democracy, to be involved in leadership, and we realize that to whom much is given, much is required. So we ask that you would give us
Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in the pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Without objection, I appoint J.T. Edwards, Allison Winter, and Kathleen Wall to a proxy committee with J.T. Edwards as chair. Hearing no objection, the proxy committee is appointed. Proxy committee, yes. Including myself and Vice Chair Alma Perez Jackson, there are 64 members. Without objection, Jim Wiggins will serve as our secretary for this meeting. Phil Robbins is leading the Underhill Retreat for his church this weekend and is unable to be here. Proxy committee, please go ahead and begin your work while Jim Wiggins calls the roll.
Can you hear me? Yes. Good. I apologize in advance for mispronouncing your name. Chair, James Dickey. Assistant General Counsel, Ross Fisher. Assistant General Counsel, Wade Emery. Chaplain, Corey Tabor. Here. Senate District 1, Robert Kasek. Here. Sue Evans.
Here.
District 2, Jason Ross.
Here.
District 2, Jerry Fisher.
Here.
District 3, Terry Holden.
Present.
Judy Correa.
Here.
District 4, Allison Winter.
Here.
Walter West.
Present.
District 5, Nita Davis.
Proxy, Steve Armbruster.
Could you give me that name again, please, sir?
Steve Armbruster. Do you have a proxy?
Oh, Steve Armbruster. Michael McCloskey.
Present.
District 6, Chris McDonald.
Here.
District 6, Don McDonald.
Here.
To watch.
District 7, Mark Ramsey.
Here.
Terry Leo.
You're about proxy.
He's doing it right over there.
Is that you, Mark?
Yes.
District 8, Susan Fisher.
Here.
District 8, Chuck Branch.
Here.
District 9, Steve Atwell.
Here.
And Keller.
Here.
District 10, Warren Norton.
Here.
District 10, Susan Wright. District 11, J.T. Edwards. Tommy Robertson. District 12, David Halverson.
Here.
Debbie Terry.
Here.
District 13, Don Elliott.
Here.
Roy Morales.
Here.
District 14, Jan Duncan.
Here.
District 14, Fernando Trevino Jr.
Here.
District 15, Virgil Cruz.
Present.
Gail Stannard.
Here.
District 16, Randall Dunning.
Here.
District 16, Susan Fountain.
Here.
District 17, Marvin Fleet.
Here.
District 20, Sam Dalton.
Here.
Anna Chipman.
Here.
District 21, Terry Harker.
Here.
Carla Sisk.
Present.
District 22, Ashley Sellers.
Here.
Trip Bryant.
And Lord.
District 23, Stephen Roden.
Right.
Leslie Thomas.
Here.
District 24, Jack Barcroft.
Proxy, Joshua Walter.
Joshua Colbert. Summer Wise. District 25, Mark DeRossio. Here. Linda Kenny. Roxy. Robert Park. Michael Rain. Marion Stanko. District 27, Morgan Graham.